Ladies, should you sync your workouts with your cycle? This is all the buzz right now on the internet, and this is what we're going to talk about in our Unload It episode today. I'm Crystal, this is Megan, and we are your hosts. So it's literally like hot topic on fire. Every second post on social media right now is focused on women's health, and syncing your cycle with your training schedule is particularly popular right now because it covers all kinds of stuff. Like, we're getting into hormones, we're getting into fitness. So like there's lots of debate, and I thought maybe it would be kind of a cool one to dive into, based on our own personal experience with having a cycle and being in the gym. I can say I've done a little bit of everything when it comes to my cycle and training. I have dabbled in trying to arrange my training schedule according to where I am in my cycle. And it just didn't work. It was not practical for me because, first of all, there's some variance in my cycles, especially now at 44. It isn't like super structured. Like, there's some months it's 25 days. There's some months it's 31 days. So from like, it's just that aspect alone, it was a little bit like, okay, doesn't feel manageable. And then just in terms of like my life and my job and my dogs and my family, it was like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind trying to like, oh, okay, I'm in my luteal phase. I better do Pilates. Like, it wasn't working. There is some nuance here for sure, but and I'll come back to that. But yeah, how about you? Like, have you played with that at all?
I have never played with that. Honestly,
Awesome.
like I have my schedule that I like. I have 2 kind of rest days or recovery days in my week. I like them to stay on the same days. The only time I'll change anything is around travel or some kind of like maybe long outdoor activity day that I have to plan my week around.
Yeah.
But if I feel I don't sleep well. So there's just regular days in my week where I feel tired or extra sore and weak, and my nutrition wasn't always as good as it is right now.
Yeah.
So I was just sore a lot from my workouts.
Right.
So I wasn't eating as much protein, and the creatine helped me with consistency over time. But if I planned everything around my cycle, and then also around my tired
Factored
days,
that in?
I might not work out very often.
Yeah, and this is the madness. So like there's definitely different camps when it comes to this discussion, and like as I said, it's a hot topic. I think like something that maybe is driving the conversation right now is Dr. Stacy Sims recently was on a podcast, the Mel Robbins podcast, talking about all things like women's health, and it's a very popular podcast. And so of course, if you just read the comments, it's just like everyone's just more confused because there is just so much advice out there. So in response to that podcast, I saw a lot of coaches and scientists and researchers create content and put it up online that basically just like refuted the idea that women need to sync their training with their cycle based on our hormones. And they had like a lot of different reasons. They basically just said, like, first of all, I think from the, like, without getting too science-y, we don't have to worry about like being more catabolic at certain phases in our training cycle. So like certain workouts negatively impacting us because of where we are in our cycle. So like, don't lift heavy because you'll break down muscle, or don't do this in this phase because like XYZ will happen. So, they had a real problem with that information being presented that way because basically the science doesn't support it. So across different studies over time, there isn't like strong evidence that says like, hey, this is happening. And also I think there's like a little bit of a mindset component there too, where we're telling women, oh, like you're less capable or you're less like,
and we already have enough of those messages coming our way. And like, don't lift heavy. Do you know what lifting heavy feels like yet? Because you might not.
You might
So
not. Yeah.
you're not lifting heavy a few days a week,
Yeah.
or I don't know how long they're suggesting for. You might already not be lifting that heavy
Right.
in your
Yeah.
training. So I don't think we need that message. And
There's definitely that.
we can circle back to like, are you drinking enough water? Are you eating enough protein? Like, if you're not doing, should you just get out walking a little bit more, focus on your sleep,
Yeah.
and then train some heavier days? Because if you're not doing those, why are you worried about
Where you
changing
are in your cycle.
here
Yeah.
and there? I don't
I
know.
think that, and I think like the nuance as I listen to these conversations between these different coaches and researchers and, you know, kind of the conversation that bloomed from it, just like in the community of women who train, I thought, you know, the nuance is quite simply like, you know, pay attention to your body and like how you feel.
Yeah.
And that's the approach that I ultimately landed on after like kind of looking at like, oh, like trying to like, you know, make certain styles of training work. What I realized ultimately was I need some structure for my life. I know what works best for me in terms of my schedule. So like I like to train 5 days a week. I like 2 of them to be during the week and 3 on the weekend. And that's not always going to work with like where I am in my cycle, but that's what works for my life. So I think and what I realized from tracking my cycle, and I'm not like using like blood tests or urine strips or anything like that. I don't know the precise day that I ovulate on, but I have like a range. Like I know, oh, this is I'm in the range, and so obviously like that information that I have is sort of like based on like just like okay, day 1 of my cycle, day 2, like I have a sort of an idea in terms of like a calendar, like this is where I am. And based on that, I know generally I feel like this during this time. Historically, you know, for these few days, this is what happens. Historically, for these few days, this is what happens. And having that knowledge actually helped me when I would have like tough days in the gym where I'd be like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like I am dragging today. And so it was helpful to know my hormones could be like having an impact here. Like I'm here in the cycle and this is typically what happens. So I found that helpful to just like have that information like available to me. Like, okay, yeah, no, this is normal. This is how I respond. And then also just being willing to adapt a little bit. Maybe, you know, I'm lifting today, but I know it might not be as heavy. I'm working like on an intense Metcon, but instead of like 85% effort, it might be 70.
Yeah.
So I think that's the nuance in the discussion is just like, you know, like have an open mind, like be adaptable. You might need to make some changes because, you know, being a female is challenging sometimes because of the changes that like our hormones can bring to each day and you know each moment. But I don't think that we need to get crazy and start like trying to organize our entire life around our cycle because I think by and large that can make us go nuts.
Well, and we don't want to like inflame the issue more than it needs to be. And if you start programming your life around your cycle, then now am I going to avoid certain activities on certain days based on that? Like you only have so many days that you can do certain things in a week. So I don't know. For me, I just keep rolling with it and I plan nothing around that. If I don't feel as good, I'm just like, well, that's probably why, and that's fine.
Yeah,
move on
that's
to
the
next
day.
week. Yeah, just keep moving on. And if my doctor tells me one day that I really need to start tracking everything, then I'll go to a second doctor. And if they also say that, then I will start doing that. But
Yeah.
I just know I would, you know, I wouldn't plan a long bike day, but I can only do that so many days in the year here.
Yeah.
So I don't want to know. I just want to live my life and know that I am impacted by this, but I'm not planning my life around it.
Right. We don't need to sync everything exactly with like where we are. Yeah. And I think that for me is the takeaway too, is that, you know, women are resilient. We're super strong. We also like, if we have a tough day where maybe we need to like just show ourselves a little bit more like compassion and grace because it is like we are, you know, impacted quite heavily by a tough day in the cycle, then hey, that's okay too. And like, you know, sort of take it as it comes. have some flexibility and, forge on. And then if you need a little extra rest here and there and you're feeling a little bit low in the water, you can certainly give yourself that grace and take that extra rest.
Yeah. Love it.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to hear from you. If you're someone that has it down to, time down to the hour and it works for you, awesome. But if you're someone who kind of goes with the flow a little bit more, love to hear that feedback as well. Thanks, Megan.